It seems like everybody today has their own viewpoints, their own ideologies, and ways to think. And I agree with everybody having that. But what I do not like is not having substance behind it. You get out here and everybody just, all this and this and this and complain. What's the substance behind it? Where did you come up with your belief? How did you come behind that in your life to get you to have that belief and thought system? Nobody wants to explain that. So I have my own thoughts and ideology, especially on the immigrant situation. And my views will actually probably surprise you compared to what you think they're going to be. But I'm not going to tell you just yet. I need you to have a background of why I think that way. So I grew up in a small New York town, New York, Pennsylvania border, kind of poor. At the age of like 12, I used to take my four-wheeler up the road to Vernon Brown's house and help out on his dairy farm. And when Vernon didn't need help, I went up to help this old German guy, I can't remember his name, that had horses and clean his stalls, wax his saddles, whatever, weed whack, mow. I was happy back then. I mean, you're going back into the early 90s to get $20 a day doing it. But there is no more of that. In New York, upstate New York, there was local small farmers. When I was growing up, I could probably knew 15, 20 farms in our township. I don't think there's any now. But big farming took over with cheap labor. So that took a resource from kids away to have work on farms and get experience and learn what a day's work is. But then I went and I started my real career. I always wanted to work in construction from an early age because in New York State, if you're going to work for a living, the highest pay you're really going to get for being a worker is state rate construction if you can get in. Can't complain about my work, that I've done. It's been very good to me. So I think it was 1999 that I went and started in Albany, New York, working. The owner of the company that I worked for was a Greek immigrant. We called him Hollywood. Johnny Andreas. What a great guy. He would come onto the job. We're working bridge construction rehab. Underneath the bridges, running jackhammer. There's dust, there's everything. We're setting scaffold and move it. Hollywood shows up. Versace. Gucci. He's the playboy. Now, Johnny came to this country. Oh, geez, back then it was 20, 30 years ago with nothing. And he built up and owned his own multi-million-dollar construction outfit that did New York State work. When he came here, I loved the man because he was so hysterical. The Greeks are great people. And he goes, I come here, I have painted towers. I go, what do you mean, John? He goes, I climbed the motherfucker 300 feet with mitts and 2 5-gallon buckets strapped to him and paint down. Free climb. 300 feet on towers. That's how the man started making money and got ahead down in the city. Tower painting. Can you imagine nowadays somebody free climbing 300 feet on a tower and paint their way down with 2 5-gallon buckets strapped to each side, or, one on each side? But that was John. And now he was, when I met him, he was probably in his mid-60s, enjoying his life, loving it, as he would say, fucking America. What a beautiful fucking country. I love the man. I'm sorry, my impressions are not that great. But John was one of the best superintendents I've ever had, and owners. He would hide in the woods where we were working with his white hard hat on, like we couldn't see him because we were doing bridges in the rural parts of Albany, all the way around it. And some of those highways, when you get on you're out in the back country. And it was great. He'd be out in the woods watching because you worked. You didn't mess around. John didn't believe in that because that's what he came here to do. So all of a sudden after that, we finished that job. He brought me down to New York City with him. Now, I put, 11 years straight into New York City working road construction. I have literally set up traffic and shut lanes down on every major highway from the Tappan Zee Bridge all the way out to Suffolk's Long Island and into Hampton Bays. Manhattan, we didn't work right in Manhattan. Down in New York City, if you actually are from there, the city is only Manhattan. The rest of the boroughs, they don't consider any of it the city. It's the boroughs, or however they put it. But I did get to work on the Harlem River Drive, the Henry Hudson, shut lane closures down on that. On the Harlem River Drive, right where it comes up and hits to go up to the GW, we were shutting all that down daytime. Really messed people up. It was fun. And I got to see Hillary Clinton drive by. It was great. But get back into the work. So I had a real big job at the end of my time down in New York City. It was on the Grand Central Parkway. And we partnered with this company that was a big outfit called Ahern Contracting. Out of New York City, they do structural steel, paint, all that. So we're going to do the civil work of the bridge rehab. They're going to do all the steel work. I think it was 26 bridges on the Grand Central Parkway. And it was like a $46 million job. Now I'm general foreman doing the concrete and have to deal with all the painters and all that. But the neatest thing on that job is I was probably the only person that you could say was an American born, pretty much on the job, that I had to deal with. Now it's like the painters, American Indians, a lot of them, Greeks and American Indians. They love heights. They don't get bothered by it. And they do some crazy stuff. And so the diversity of people was neat. My head EIC inspector was from Russia, straight over. His whole crew was all Russian. And now that same inspector is the head of New York borough's safety, which is pretty cool. I'm glad to see him get up there. But all my crew, I had old Joe, he was a Yugoslavian, and he was jackhammering under bridges at like 65, 70 years old. Then I had my buddy Jose, he was a Dominican, big teddy bear. He was probably 6'2", 6'3", almost 300 pounds. Just the nicest man you ever met in your life. And it goes on, the list keeps going. But working with all these people that came into the country as immigrants, they all had one thing in common. They came in legally. They fought, they paid, they put their dues in, and they came here. And I don't think I can remember any one of them ever looking at me when we got talking about it, saying that anybody coming here illegally should be allowed, because they didn't. They came here because they loved our country. They wanted to work. And they're great people. They're good workers. We need them. I have my ex-wife's uncle was a scholar of a man. He started out doing oil rigs and drilling for oil out on the ocean and doing stuff. Very worldly person. And we're sitting there at dinner and he's telling me, about this farm that's up near where we are. And they have a blueberry grove. How great it is that all these illegals are in there picking them for $10 an hour. migrants, whatever you want to call them. And he goes, nobody in our country anymore will work for that. And I look straight at him and says, why wouldn't I? You give me $10 an hour to go pick blueberries with no taxes taken out of it. That's $400 a week if I work 40 hours a week. Nothing taken out of it. That's very tempting because I know what they take out of me. When you get into the tax bracket where I am, working construction, especially when I was down in New York City, before I got married, the 1 year was like $160,000 I made down there before I was married. And wow, you have no idea what a single male in New York State loses out of their paycheck a week when you make that. Everybody goes, you make a fortune. I go, yep, but I live on the road 5 days a week. I have a house that I come back to on weekends, so it's like having two residents that you're maintaining. So I make good money, but of course, if you live down there, those poor guys that live down in the city, 150,000 even back then, I don't even know how they made it. Scraping. But this is probably the greatest thing I ever listened out of a person's mouth about the immigrants and how it is. I was living over in Queens. I can't remember where it was exactly, but it was in my superintendent John's and the owner of the company's John's mother's house in this used to be Greek village that was in Queens. And the neighbor was, an immigrant from Greek. The other side was, I think they were Mexican and then Dominican down the street. It was basically all Spanish now, except for me and my neighbor that was still Greek. And he used to come out and I'd bullshit with him, coming in and out the doors. And he'd say, I learned English to come to this fucking country. I'll be damned if I learn Spanish just to buy something out of the grocery store. And I understand what he's saying. They fought hard to get here, the ones that came legally like that. And there's lots of them. I believe our country needs people coming in because the rate that we're having children is not a rate to stay advancing. Our country and the way things are going with men and women ain't having children, men ain't getting dating. I'm divorced at 48. Nope, I'm done. The hell with it. It ain't worth it no more. 22 years together. And not after all that. It's just before. When you're married, it's all against you as the male, no matter what happens. So, and shoot, date before. It ain't worth it no more. But that's my view on that. But with the immigration thing, I don't know if we should kick them all out. If they're violent criminals, yeah, I can understand that. But we need them. But the thing is they're here. They need to say they're here. They need to become taxpayers like the rest of us. People go, oh, they pay taxes. Well, then they're cheating the system somehow because you can't pay taxes without a social security number. Can't happen. Don't happen. So make them legal. Just stop letting more in that we don't know who is. We got to have some sort of check and balance of who's coming into the country. Listen, we have a great, great place here. But the idea of the place is for everybody to come together and not still be decisive, against one another. If you came from whatever country, great, but you wanted to be here, correct? That's all I'm saying. Love where you came from. But if you don't respect and love this place, what's the sense of being here? Go back to where you were. That's all. I mean, I'm not against any of it. but I am against them getting anything from our system. We have veterans, homeless. We got people that have nothing. We don't do nothing for them, but yet we'll do everything there is for other countries across the world. I understand Ukraine is getting invaded, but do you know how much money we gave them and what we could have done with our own country? Look at our infrastructure, people. If we don't start caring about ourselves just a little bit and coming united, it's all going to go apart. And that's what they want. I don't know. I'm just a poor little country shithead hick that don't know nothing. But I grew up and worked and went around a lot of different people in my years. And I'm telling you, sometimes the little person in the back that you wouldn't think knows anything has the best ideas, and you should listen. I've always believed in that. Because that one guy I said, old Joe Siska. Now, this man is like 60, 70 years old when he was working for me back then. And he used to have his lunchbox was a liter of vodka and a loaf of bread. And he would be sitting there eating his bread and taking a little drinky. I mean, he's only jackhammering like this. What the fuck? But, and I can remember the one day the inspector looks at him and says, Joe, you can't drink on the job. He says, no drinky, no worky. I mean, you ought to see what the worst was. I didn't even get into him because nobody respects the Irish, but I do. Holy crap. My carpenter crew on that job was straight Irish. Straight Irish. And Patrick was their boss. I was above Patrick, told him, but Patrick was the boss of two other guys. The shop steward, which was another Irishman. We called him Shoppy. And then he had Emmanuel, which was, don't think he was Jamaican, but he was something, whatever, I'll get it wrong. He's great dudes. But you put these three together, they were a great carpenter crew. Did beautiful work on the bridges. Rehab was done awesome. Very minimal oversee it all. Especially from a young kid, because Patrick was, I was 32, 33, and Patrick was in his late 40s. He didn't want to listen to me. Boy, can they drink. When they say Irish can drink, Patrick would come in the next day, a little shorter than me, big old beer belly, and he would just be orphan. I mean, sweating. And he'd looked at me, honest could be, because I was picking on him one day about, Ocean coming in and testing, and nope, they can't test us. Our union down here made it to where we cannot be alcohol tested. And I'm like, he's quoting out something. I'm like, okay, Pat, I'm just picking on you, man. But my view on everything is just, really, people, settle down. I don't understand the rioting and everything. We bring it on to ourselves when we do that versus the country. Come united. Talk to the people. Let's say, hey, if they're here and they're not done nothing wrong, besides they broke into the country if they're here illegally. Overstayed visas, however you want to look at it, they still broke the law. But if they haven't done nothing besides that, and they're contributing to the country, working, doing something, not just being freeloaders, because you shouldn't come here and immediately get free help. We don't get it. You shouldn't get it. You got to work. Make them citizens. Make them pay taxes. Let them be productive parts of our country. But that's how it's got to stay after that. You come, you become a citizen. You're legal. We know everybody is fair and equal that way. And that's how it's supposed to be. I don't believe in anybody should have to pay more than that person. We all made our own life choices. They were your choice. Nobody else's. Just because some people were more successful than others doesn't make them obligated to pay more or do more for other people. Everybody's responsible for one person, and that's you yourself, no matter how you look at it. You know, I've been rambling on for a lot longer than I thought. I don't really edit this stuff, so if you made it this far, appreciate it. Love you. Have a good day.